Welcome back to Weekly Exchange, where we discuss 4X strategy news and the games we're currently enjoying. I'm Warmacblu, joined today by Nasarog. This week, we're going to be discussing a short giveaway that you have.
Yes.
Apollo4X, Age of Wonders 3, and Warlock 2. So, I guess take it away with the giveaway, and Apollo4X.
Okay, no problem. Okay, on our site, explorminate.com, as well as in our group, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever else we have any kind of presence, we posted up yesterday our next giveaway, and that is in celebration of Amplitude's release of Dungeon of the Endless and Endless Legend. And you guys are going, girls, everybody, you're going to have multiple opportunities to score some of these games. So if you're curious, or if you want to try, which I highly recommend because it's free and doesn't really require anything, come to our site, come look on our in our Steam group, and the rules are in there. And all right, now I'm going to talk about Apollo4X. So Apollo4X is a new 4X game that is right now in pre-alpha, and it got greenlit on Steam, and it is a very, very interesting game because it takes elements of Business Tycoon, but it's more like business trader. It's a hybrid. It's really, really interesting. It's, first of all, it's set in space. You don't have individual factions or races. You have businesses, so there's a little bit of simulators there with Beyond Earth, only instead of having people that support you, you have the people that purchase from you. So the planets are really your customers. The systems are your customers. You develop your empire through your business, and you don't necessarily, you could, but the intention is for you not to conduct a direct war with another business using military. It's more about doing it through acquisition, through controlling the market. So it's definitely an interesting take on 4X, but it's not a traditional take. It could be something a cross between Europa Universalis or Crusader Kings, and then mixing in a little bit of Business Tycoon, mixing a little bit of Master of Orion, and then you also have combat in it, which is card-based. So that, again, is something different.
Yeah, I did watch several of the videos they have on their website.
Right.
I think the most recent, or the video at the very bottom, is all about the card-based fighting, and that looked very interesting. The other videos, they're very short, maybe a minute to 2 minutes, and they briefly go over some of the aspects of the game. And I would recommend checking them out. Without having played the game, it's hard to, get a feel for how it actually feels to play.
Of course. It's still in early development, so... Yeah,
from what I've seen, looks promising. The interface, it's very large, which I like because it's easy to read. However, it looks kind of 80s.
It's simple.
It's simple. And I don't know if they're going to change that or not. They're probably going to wait for some more feedback.
Again, early alpha, it's harder to tell, like any game in early alpha or even pre-alpha, they can give you some ideas, they can show you what they're intending to do, and then based on what they can do or what's available, it can change 10 times. But still, it has a lot of interesting things. One of the gameplay features that I liked and really drew my attention was how the business aspect of running an interstellar empire fits into it. Because normally when you're playing a 4X game, you have your faction, and if you're the business faction, you try to control the markets. If you are the war faction, you're the warmonger, you're the guy who starts the fights, the tech. But here it's different, because here it's just the businesses trying to control the randomly generated galaxy, and it's not even about, I found the one planet. The one planet might be the best planet ever, but if the rest of the system is terrible, then it can draw down your whole economy. So you're actually looking at clusters of planets. and then you're networking your buildings, trying to optimize their output. So you're tweaking, and then you have a faction that's specifically working on market manipulation. That's how they try to control everything. And then you have monopolies. So I mean, it's very, very interesting. It's promising. If nothing else, it's taken in a different direction, which is very good, because I think there's always an issue of stagnation in 4X. So
right, and they are reaching out on the Explorminate forums, Steam forums.
Right.
So if you want to ask questions, or they might be looking for testers soon, you can probably get in on that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's move on to Age of Wonders 3. They are slowly making their way to releasing the next expansion pack. And the latest dev journal, which came out yesterday, Friday, November 7th, they speak about world events. They call them cosmic events. They mention that the expansion isn't just going to add the Necromancer class, it's going to add some more things. And these cosmic events are basically random events that change the world. Now, I thought Age of Wonders 3 was the most random 4X game, or at least one of the most random 4X games, especially today, I guess, from the most recent ones, and the way you can customize your maps and everything. And they're adding another level of randomization that you can customize, which will just add to that replayability.
It's going to be interesting, but I think they'll have to make sure that they balance it very carefully.
Right. So let's talk about one or two of the...
Why don't you pick your favorite one?
Yeah. I like Falling Clouds. Falling Clouds, you get to choose in the beginning when you're making a map to decide how many of these events will happen or how random they'll be. So it might be a slider from 0 to 100%. But Falling Clouds, it's basically a thick mist is slowly moves over the map.
Right.
And it gives armored and machined units a defense penalty. Mm-hmm. And shock weakness. Mm-hmm. So mist, is water, so that kind of makes sense. And that's bad news. They say that it's bad news for dreadnoughts and dwarves, mainly because they're armored and machined units, yeah.
Right.
So, it could be interesting if you're playing a game against dwarves or especially dwarf and dreadnought, who are very powerful. Maybe they're probably, if you had to write out a tier list, they're in the top tier. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a balancing. It could be a balancing act.
It could be. It's interesting. Does the falling mist, does it also create almost like a reduced vision or line of sight? Anything of that nature?
All it says is that vision is reduced, but I think that is more of a descriptive term, right? As opposed to, let's say, units fighting in the mist will have negative attack penalties. But
that would be interesting if ranged units had negative attack penalties, because they can't see what they're attacking.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Another one that interests me is an event called Rise of the Lich King, and this is multiple stacks of undead units will spawn across the land. And this is kind of like, if we had to compare it to Warlock, where monsters respawn over time.
Yep.
This is very similar, where monsters will spawn, and they'll be undead.
Skeleton zombies, or just specifically skeletons?
They don't say. It just says undead units. And amongst the undead units, there'll be a powerful necromancer hero. I guess he's called the Lich King. Mm-hmm. And he's designed so that higher level heroes can attack him, and he'll also carry powerful artifacts. So it kind of reminds me of a mixture between Warlock and Sorcerer King, where randomly a very powerful AI spawns. Right. They don't say how aggressive he'll be or anything like that.
Well, that's really interesting. That's I like how there's, like, across the genre, across the whole 4X genre in regards to fantasy, there's these tropes that If you don't hit them, if you don't get them, everybody's like, oh, how come there are no dwarves or no elves, or why isn't this there, why isn't that? But then on the flip side, if you do get them, they're like, wait, I've seen this a million times, why are you doing it? So it's harder to get that balance, so I think it's more interesting as a random event than having this be like a constant component of the game. I hope they have more than just these 3-4 events.
Yeah, they've listed 4, and they said, here are a couple of the many omens we are working on. That's a quote from their website.
Nice.
So you probably won't be able to control the individual ones. They'll probably just be a slider, a random event slider.
Right.
Kind of like, well, no, I guess I was going to just say SimCity. Remember how in the SimCity games there was like a tornado or
that's like
a
the natural disasters. If you wanted natural disasters, or you did.
Yeah. So it seems kind of like that. One of the omens is a natural disaster.
I think it's more like Sword of the Stars, where you could control the amount of random encounters.
Okay.
So probably there's going to be, and I think it's also like that in Warlock now. At least they introduced it where you can control the amount of the enemy, the monster layer spawns. So what do you think if we switch over to Warlock? Because I think this is a very good point.
Yeah, real quick, you can check out all of the cosmic events on the Age of Wonders 3 website.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So Warlock, so they ported the game to Mac and Linux. And once I figured out the different control scheme on the laptop versus having a mouse and playing it a more traditional way, I've been enjoying it this past week. And Wednesday they released a patch, undocumented basically. They didn't say what they were doing. It just says addressing issues for Mac and Linux.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to the patch, my game worked beautifully. After the patch, my game did not work. So I was like, wait, did you fixed my game working? So a bunch of people were complaining on their Steam forums, on the Paradox forums. So then they released a beta patch. It's not an official patch, but it's a beta that's a patch that you have. If you're not opted into beta, you can get it. So they mentioned it, and the dev said, hey, why don't you go over there? This will fix it. So I did that yesterday afternoon, I think, maybe Thursday night. And then I got to play it again, and I'm playing it. Meanwhile, people are still complaining. And I'm like, what are they complaining about? My game works great. I hit turn 71. I go from a saved game. Boom, there it is again. Same crashing, and it's just like, it drives me crazy. It's like, come on, guys, really?
Right.
Really? So, yeah, but I mean, other than that, it's a fun game. I mean, it's Warlock 1 with an additional mode, because you have Sandbox. Then you have the Exiled mode, which is the single player campaign. You have multiplayer, of course, and then you have the new mode that was introduced in 2, which is like the Sandbox Exiled, which is basically you're trying to conquer the various shards, and that's very reminiscent of Eodor, because that's basically what Eodor was. And it's a fun game. I like the fact that they're trying to address the city spam, and I like some of the new units that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing more art. I mean, it's still a lot of... let me start from the beginning. It's still all of the art from the first game, plus they added more, which is nice. But on the flip side, they're calling it Warlock 2, and it doesn't feel like Warlock 2. I mean, I know people are going to gripe about it and complain, no, you can't say that. You have no idea how much effort they put into it. And it's like, true, I don't. But that doesn't change my impression.
Mm-hmm. Well, having not played Warlock 1,
right?
I guess if someone were to start fresh with a Warlock game and you had a choice between Warlock 1 and Warlock 2, you would choose Warlock 2, right?
Absolutely. It feels now like some of the aspects of the Drummers, which was the last DLC expansion, whatnot, for Warlock 1, is within this game. I just haven't encountered it yet. Okay. So maybe that's one of the shards. It was cool. I mean, it made the first game more interesting. So I'm sure it'll do the same here. But I actually want to ask you a question. During the week we were talking, and you mentioned that you hated the spawning of the monster layers. Why?
Right. Yeah. So I have been playing Warlock 2 this week. I guess this would be a good segue into the games we're playing.
Right.
You and I are both playing Warlock 2 this week.
We are.
And at first, I didn't like the spawning. I actually played the game, and spawning didn't happen. So that's good.
You did the campaign, you mean?
No, I should probably start over. I am playing a sandbox mode with the shards. You know, you go shard to shard.
Right. The new mode for the game.
Yeah, and I like it a lot. It does remind me of Ador, and the thing I like about it is it's kind of a pseudo way to control city spam, like you said. Usually you only need 1 or 2 cities per shard.
Right.
And then you can just travel between them. However, I fully conquered my shard except for the water because the Kraken units are very powerful.
They are.
And then I moved to another shard, which happened to be an undead shard, and I was very pleased with that. And I conquered that shard. And then I got a pop-up message saying that, you know, some vampire, or not vampires, it just said there was some bandit or brigand that was going to attack my home city.
So you have to go back to your original shard.
And then when I went back to the original shard, I also saw a bunch of other monsters. You know, they have the little mouth teeth.
Right. The fangs.
Yeah, and I said, what the heck is this? And then I thought about it more. We haven't spoken about this yet, but I thought about it more, and it's a good way to, you know, kind of keep your units, making them more powerful, because you can almost farm those mobs that respawn.
True.
And I remember you mentioning that you kind of have to play when you're done developing your city, or when you're done founding your city, you should keep some defensive units around, or keep some units around.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 units. You'll get more of a warning of this happening versus getting the event telling you, hey, some brigand is demanding you give him gold, or you dance and amuse him, or whatever the message happens to be.
I actually had a question for you about the game that you might be able to answer also.
Sure.
Random events happen where they say, you know, the city has been infected by a plague or whatever.
Right.
And you can pay gold, or you can pay mana, or you can be a really evil ruler and, you know, just let the plague spread its course.
Right.
Do these happen randomly, or do they happen more if you don't defend the city, or if you leave your city?
It's random. It's there are a lot of different versions. There's the mob. There is it's kind of like to keep you focused on city development, because otherwise basically all you do with your city is you use it to pump out units. So then the game is just straight up war game, pumping out units, you conquering, because the diplomacy in the game is such that you can make a temporary alliance, you can trade spells, trade resources, trade cities, whatever, but then at the end you're still going to be fighting everybody because you're fighting for domination.
Yeah, unless there's a lot of win conditions, right? You can cast a spell.
Yeah, the spell of unity, right? But still, it's very, the spell of unity is very elaborate. It's like it's a hard spell to cast, and it can be interrupted. So the easiest way, as with most of these games, it's just to go to war and wipe them out.
Right. So the combat does have to be strong, which, I've never been a fan of the overworld combat found in this game or any of the Civilization games. However, it's starting to grow on me in Warlock.
Right.
I'm not sure why.
Because it's fun. It's there's no pretense there. Right. A lot of games they take themselves too seriously. They're like the Civ games. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the Civ games, but some of the stuff that they do, they take away choices. They take away options. They're trying to recreate, how things were, and then create an alternate history, where Beyond Earth didn't do that. But as a result of that, they started something new. They're trying something different that they haven't done in quite a while. But because they didn't flesh out the new things, and they brought back a bunch of old mechanics that they didn't fix, it makes the game look bad. So the game itself, for somebody who's never played any Civ game, if they just pick this up for the first time, they're going to be like, wow, what are all these people talking about? But the thing is, majority of people have played Civ for many, many iterations. They know what makes a good Civ game. And when you go Civ Beyond Earth, just like what they did with Civ Colonization, you know, you're using the name and you're making a promise. And if you don't fulfill the promise, you're going to get beat up pretty badly. And with Warlock, that's
it was the opposite. It was too similar.
Yeah, of course, it's too similar to the first one. But, you know, it's hard to tell whether they're going for a money grab. I mean, I take it back. We know they're going for a money grab because all the DLC, they release so much DLC and none of it is inexpensive. None of it is $1.52. Everything's $5. Everything is bam, bam, bam. Right. So the good thing is the game is not expensive and you can always find it on sale. So you can always get yourself a copy for like $5. And right. For $5, this is one of those games that, as long as it's not crashing on you, is definitely a, you know, buy it, play it, have fun, don't think twice about it. You know, $5. Come on.
Right, and we might have a multiplayer Let's Play coming in the future, so
that sounds interesting.
That's something to look forward to.
That sounds interesting.
Okay, well, this was a light news week. If there are future light news weeks, we'll probably have longer discussions about games we're currently enjoying.
I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's about it. Do you have any parting words? Anything more about the giveaway?
Nah, we're flooding everybody. Guys, just participate because it's free stuff for you and it gets out Amplitude, gets them noticed, and they're a fantastic studio and they make great games. And come talk to us. We're on the forums. We're on Facebook, on Twitter. We're always looking for interesting conversations. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for joining us on Explore Minute's Weekly Exchange. Talk to you again soon.
Bye.